For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Elin Wolf. How's it going today, Elin?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I don't know why I was overthinking how to pronounce your name. Like, just for whatever reason, I was overthinking it a little bit, but glad to have you on the podcast.
I get it.
What's that?
I get it. It's hard to remember for some reason for Americans.
Well, because for me, it's just like the way, because I know the feeling of getting your name butchered, and some people, it's like it's understandable, but then there's, so I get it. I understand, and I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure I get the name pronounced right. And then there's names where it's like, oh, there's only one way that can be pronounced. I pronounce it that way, and then I'm 100% wrong. And it's like, okay. Yeah. So,
well, you got it right this time. So
awesome. I'm ecstatic about that. But first off, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I'm excited to sit down and chat with you and learn a little bit more about what you got going on, all the cool music stuff you've been working on the last few years. But before we kind of jump into all that, what's kind of your background? What got you interested in music? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I come from a music family. So my dad, he's done pretty much everything with music. Right now he has a blues band, but he's been touring with different bands, progressive rock, when I was a kid. And he did sound engineering. He was writing music for documentaries at one point. He's been teaching music, so it was always music at home. He was playing piano, and I grew up. Actually, one of the first memories, I think I wasn't even 4 years old. I was like 3.5 or something. They told me, and I was sitting in his lap, and he played Stevie Wonder, "Isn't She Lovely?" Mm-hmm. And, I was like singing along. And so that was kind of what's going on when I was a kid. There was a lot of music, especially soul, a lot of soul music when I grew up. Now they listen to a little bit other things, but yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And so you're originally from Sweden.
I'm originally from Sweden. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I started to play violin when I was 6 years old. So that was a big part of my music upbringing as well. Yeah. And then I lived in a small town, and I went to a music class there. So it was like specifically music in my class, and people were kind of shy. So I always got to be like the main part in the musicals or have the solo and stuff. So that kind of led me on to wanting to keep on going and pursue this path.
Awesome. That's one of the curses and blessings of having an outgoing personality is you always get asked to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. But it turned out being a good thing. So.
And so now you're out in LA. How did you, or was it always a dream to come to the US, or how did that kind of start playing?
Actually not. I always been traveling a lot, and I did quite a bit of traveling with my music in Europe. And I had several bands, and we went on tours to foremost like Britain and like Dublin, London, Brighton, all of that, and also a little bit to Eastern Europe. Went to Budapest and Berlin and so on. So I did quite a lot of touring, and I lived in Paris for a little bit. But The States, it was just 1 year before I moved here. I moved here in 2018, September 2018. And I was signed with a label in Sweden who did send us to different festivals. So it was this festival in LA that I was booked for. So I went to that festival in 2017, and the first time I got here, and I actually a lot of people dream of going to LA, and I was not one of them.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it so much. But as soon as I got here, I felt at home. I love the beach. I love the proximity to be able to be at the mountains and the beach and still go out and meet interesting, creative people at night, So yeah, I fell in love with LA the first time I got here. And then I went here on a small tour in spring 2018. And then September, I moved here. Yeah.
Nice. And so it was just after those couple, or the trip here, you just kind of found it more homely than you thought you would have. Is that kind of?
Yeah. It was not that I had anything against LA either. I just didn't have it wasn't a place that I thought about. I had thought about moving to Berlin or maybe to Barcelona. Other places. But so I just really didn't know what to expect. And I fell in love with it.
Completely understood. So let's backtrack a little bit about your musical career starting back in Sweden. At what point did you kind of start taking music more seriously, as knowing you wanted to pursue it as a profession, or knowing you had a more talent behind it and you wanted to do something with it?
Yeah, so actually I played violin for pretty long, so it wasn't until maybe 6 years ago or 7 years ago that I started to. I always been singing and always been in choirs, always been, in school and stuff like that. But 6-7 years ago, I started to write music. And that kind of, brought it together for me. I was in a really bad breakup and I needed an outlet for my pain.
Yep.
And so I started to write on the piano. And then pretty quickly, since I'd been in music my whole life, it came very easily for me. So I put together the band just 6 months after I started to write. And the first band was more soul influenced, soul, R&B influenced. And then the second band was more electro pop. So I kind of tried my way a little bit there the first couple of years. And then I landed in what I'm doing right now, which is more, I have two sides. One that is more classic rock, blues rock, psychedelic rock, all rock influenced, which is my band. And then my solo artist thing is it's going more towards folk rock and singer-songwriter.
We won't talk too much about the band because I know the band itself has a podcast coming up here next month, I think.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting there. When I was prepping for this interview, I was like, wait a minute, am I on the wrong page? What am I doing here? And then I started connecting the dots and I'm like, oh, it's two separate projects. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so then I just started putting the context clues together. So we won't talk about the band that much, but if it happens to come up in the story, that's fine. So as far as your solo career, obviously you've kind of gone through a couple of different iterations, but just having having a strong writing background seems to be a very constant pillar in your musical career. What kind of got you into writing?
So I think you're absolutely right, by the way. And I think that since I started to write pretty late, I didn't really know what genre I wanted to, but I knew what I wanted to write about. Um, so what I'm writing about has been constant, which is kind of like, I almost see my lyrics as some kind of therapy. But not just for myself. It's kind of, how can I say this? It's like I'm bringing up things that comes to my mind, which I'm going through right now, but which I know like other women too go through, kind of like identity with a partner, love breakups, psychological matters that we're like going through, thinking about. So so that's kind of like the constant thing in my music. But and then the melodies, I always had like really strong melodies. So it's I think like the arrangements are the things, and the production side has been the thing that have been changing, which I felt like when I moved here 3 years ago, it became more like I know who I am now as an artist. But like the lyrics, the themes, and the melodies have always been there.
And it seems like you've always kind of straddled that line of having that rock influence, like whether it's classic rock or rock, like whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Who were some, outside of the what we had talked about earlier, who were some of the rock bands that you were listening to as you were kind of going through this creative journey of finding out what type of musician you wanted to be?
So you can hear in my music that I'm influenced from different kinds of rock bands. So maybe not going to sound like make sense, but like from the classic side, obviously Led Zeppelin. Then I also like bands that are popular now is Rival Sons and Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes are some of the rock influences. Then on another more like where the harmonies like is more important, I would say Radiohead. Radiohead is a big influence. I really love them. And then other than that, I love Joni Mitchell. I love Amy Winehouse. Those are kind of like strong vocal performers that I listen to a lot and kind of I'm influenced by.
I never realized how much I actually liked Amy Winehouse until way after she had passed away. Like I was just sitting there one day, her really big song happened to pop up on my Spotify playlist because I was going through a 2000s playlist or something, and her was it Rehab, I think was the name of it. That came on, and I was like, oh man, I forgot about this song. And so then I just started kind of going through the rest of her music, and I was like, I don't remember ever liking her this much. And so it's interesting, once you gain some perspective on music. So
exactly. No, I think too, after seeing, I didn't really know that, but after seeing the documentary about her, I realized that she was kind of like, she was not really like accepted in the States. Like people kind of like looked down at her because when she came here, she was like already pretty fucked up. She was really bad off, but she had a whole career before in Europe. So
and that's some of the stuff that I had started to discover once I went and listened, because I mean, when Rehab came out, I was in high school, maybe. Like I don't remember exactly when the song came out, but I want to say it was like the early 2000s. Right? And so
I don't remember exactly, but she died in 2008 or 9. So
Okay, so then
probably
I would have been like late in high school, early in college when Rehab came out, and
yeah.
just didn't know anything about her earlier career until now, or until a couple of years ago, and I was just like, oh wait, where did all these songs come from? So
Yeah, the Frank album is
yeah.
great. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So given, let's go ahead and jump into some of your music. Talk about My
Mhm.
Father's Daughter. That's your most recent single, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the story behind that song?
So I speak a lot about like having kind of a roller coaster life, and I'm talking mostly, I guess, about like my mental state. I don't suffer from like very like deep depressions, but um, yeah, like my psychological, like my mental state is going up and down quite a lot, and I'm dealing with that on an everyday basis. And I happen to have gotten that from my dad, and so I remember a lot of things that he used to do or say or be like growing up, you know. And then now when I'm an adult, I kind of like see the same behavior and I kind of can relate to it. And so it's kind of just like a redemption song in a way
Mm.
where um I'm not being like, hey, it's okay, but it's like, hey, I'm going through the same things and I totally know what you went through and I am struggling as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so did we'll kind of take a little bit of a left turn here, and
Mhm.
kind of going through your mental health and dealing with that. Did I'm assuming COVID kind of made that way worse, or did you find that it kind of was able to help you?
It's yeah, so it's funny because people say it's getting worse or not. I feel like it's the same. Like I
Okay, that's
like
fair.
constant because I feel like I'm always like working on my music, either whether it was like COVID or not COVID.
Mhm.
So that didn't really change except that I couldn't do shows.
Yeah,
I definitely find it helpful to be able to like work with a band again and
yeah,
you know do shows.
yeah,
Um, but I just feel like this like emotional roller coaster where like you know someone say something to you or someone do something to you and you get like really hurt or you get like very upset and that kind of like I always have a lot of people in my life even like if it's COVID, so it kind of been the same thing to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Completely understood.
yeah.
So for My Father's Daughter, how that released back in July, correct?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah, July. What was kind of the thought process when releasing it? Is it like just are you thinking it's a standalone single, or are you kind of working towards an EP, an LP, or where are you kind of at in that
Yeah,
regards?
so that was like the last one in like an EP, but I just like released them as
Yeah,
singles. So
and
before previous to that, it was like Into Pieces, Take a Look Over My
yeah,
Shoulders, and Night Train to Yosemite. And so that's actually something that like COVID like the way they were released
yeah,
was COVID related because
yeah,
we recorded them with one of my producers, Dennis D'Angelo. We recorded them like way before,
yeah,
like we put them in like before COVID.
yeah,
And then I kind of went out of town for COVID a little bit, and then we decided to spread them out.
yeah,
And you know, the whole process took a longer time.
yeah.
So I think it took like a year to release 4 of those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's not really uncommon, especially during COVID, because I saw a lot of bands do that. They were getting ready bands, musicians, whatever, they were getting ready to go out on tour, or they just gotten out of the studio and they were going to release a big or full length album, or whatever. And then COVID came along, and they're like, had to rethink how they were going to release everything, because especially in a time where you can't get out and play music live, there's really no point in releasing a full body of work, because people want to buy it, and you're going to get more legs out of just releasing singles. So I think COVID completely changed the music business, at least for a short time.
Yeah, definitely. No, so that was and I even like the vocals to My Father's Daughter. I even did them when I came back to LA.
Okay.
That was like the last thing that we had left, and like, because COVID happened so fast, and I just like felt like I don't want to be in LA. Also thinking about like what I'm doing, like doing shows and stuff. There's no reason. So I kind of decided to leave LA in a whim.
Where did you end up going to, or did you go back?
I was in Arizona for between March when it hits till October.
Wow. So you were there for a good bit.
Yeah, for a good bit. Yeah.
Nice. So COVID hits, and you have this four song EP that you're wanting to release. How did you kind of go through the process of deciding the order to release them as singles?
So I felt like, it's funny, right, when you release music, because you always think that the song that you're releasing is the strongest one. But before releasing them, I thought that Into Pieces is the one that feels like more like a single. That it starts more, like it starts with a steady beat and kind of it's not a very long intro.
Yeah.
It starts pretty forceful, or impactful. So that was an easy choice to do that one first. And then My Father's Daughter was like, we hadn't finished the vocals, so that was kind of an easy choice too. And the other ones were not really, it wasn't like a specific reason.
It could have gone either way, essentially.
It could have gone either way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, so that bringing us to now, where are you kind of at creatively? Are you writing, recording, or where are you kind of at right now?
Yeah. I'm constantly writing. I'm not this kind of writer who like writes one part of the year and then like, I don't really work that way. So when I get an idea to a song, I write it. So it could be that like 1 month I write 10 songs and another month I don't write a single song. But I'm just now starting to record an album, actually. Yeah. Nice. And it's been a long time coming. I have this like Wolf Woman project that I've been thinking about doing for a while.
I was going to bring that up because I was watching the little interview video on your YouTube channel about wolf womanhood. So that was going to be.
Yeah, and that has also kind of been like put off a little bit because I had this idea last year, I was going to be signed to this label, but then we didn't really like agree about everything, so I kind of put it aside for a little bit, and now I'm working with Andrew Monheim, who I've known since the first week I came to LA. Actually, I got introduced by a common friend, Swedish singer-songwriter, and so we've been working a little bit together. But then when I came back here, I started to talk to him about this, and now finally we are in the process of recording all the demos. for the album. So it's super exciting to finally, start that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you consider Wolf Womanhood, like, is that like a completely different project from your solo stuff, or is that part of your?
Yes, I mean, like that is Elin Wolf as a solo artist, but I'm kind of inspired by, like, some artists are doing more. They kind of move freely
Okay.
between like band stuff and more acoustic stuff.
Yeah.
According to like what they feel like they want to do right now. Like Lady Gaga does that. I feel like another artist that I like a lot, Tash Sultana.
Mhm.
She goes like in a little bit in between. So I wrote all this material, and I just felt that it's not going to be like totally acoustic, but it's not going to be as rock,
Yeah.
more towards like folk rock.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Completely.
So I just felt that those songs, I kind of like when I write a song, okay, what is the song?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's the identity of the
Yeah.
song? So I wrote this material, and then yeah, I just followed the songs, followed the identity of the songs.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So I I did want to bring this up because you'd mentioned that you played violin when you were younger, and I noticed on your YouTube channel that you still play violin sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just, I mean, I've been writing for the last couple of years here in LA. I didn't play for a while, and then I decided I wanted to do it again. And then, so I've been writing for two different artists since I got here, and then now for my band, which we're not going to talk about a lot. But in my band, I play and record violin for the band as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Because I noticed the solo violin video that you have on your YouTube channel, and so that was just kind of interesting and cool because it's one of those things where a lot of musicians I talk to, that first instrument that they learned how to play, they kind of fall off and just like, oh, I can kind of play. Like if I sat down and like really dedicated a couple of weeks to it, I could probably pick it right back up. But
yeah.
So it's always interesting to.
Yeah, that's how it felt because like as I said, I didn't play it for years, and then I just like, you know what, I really love it. I really love the sound, and I also realized that it could add something to my original music as well. And I mentioned it to friends, and then it was this band actually in Arizona. They're really good. It's like a post-rock band, Koya. And so they asked me to play on their EP. So that was the first project I did for years. But yeah, it gave me, yeah.
Nice. So kind of piggybacking off that, you'd mentioned or that you're kind of always writing. What is, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but what is your writing process when are you more freelance, like when you're driving, it'll hit you, or do you find yourself having to be more structured with your writing and just like, I've got from this time to this time?
Yeah, I like to either be like quietly in my apartment or go somewhere. I actually love writing in nature. So I've written several songs camping, like night train to Yosemite. I started on the train and finished on like in the actual camp.
Nice.
And I sometimes like take my guitar when I go hiking. I've written songs at the beach. So it's either like somewhere like beautiful in nature where I feel inspired, or kind of late at night in my apartment. I like it to be kind of like dark.
Yeah.
And I also find myself, I'm a very like emotional writer. So it's often that like it's something that I'm thinking about, or something that's, you know, very present in my life right then. Whether it's like I wrote a song about a friend who got into prison. I wrote a friend, I wrote some, you know, or when I break up with someone, or when, like, you know, so that's kind of when I write, because then I feel like my songs are getting like the strongest.
Yeah.
So then my process is very quick, because I am like so in the moment. So I go like I totally shut everything else down, you know, and I write pretty much the whole song. I mean, the structure, like the theme is coming first. Then I'm kind of like jamming on my guitar for the harmonies, and then the melodies, and then yeah.
So when you're writing, lyrics started off and then you start bringing in instrumentation, is that kind of the feel of it when you're writing?
No, actually, like it's more that I have the theme in mind.
Okay.
It's not that I actually have the lyrics. They, funny enough, they come last.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like jamming the chords and the melody, and then I find some keywords, and then I put the and I think this is because I'm not like a native like English speaker. So lyrics are very important to me, but I have to kind of like sit down and think about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the melody and the harmony comes more, you know, like I can jam.
Yeah.
It's
It comes more naturally that way. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will be kind of an interesting segue, because you brought up that you're not a native English speaker. Do you have any songs that you speak or sing in Swedish?
No, so that's funny, because like everyone asks me that, and it's I haven't actually tried to write anything in Swedish for a while, but when I just started writing songs, I wrote a couple of songs in Swedish, or more than a couple. I think, yeah, I even used some of them in my first band. They weren't very good, and
Hey, at least you're honest about it.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe they could have been better if I kept on doing it in Swedish, but I think because the reason is that the music that I listen to is American or British. I don't really. There's a couple of Swedish artists that sings in Swedish, but it's very seldom that I listen to that. So it just comes. Yeah, funny enough, it comes more natural.
Completely understood. Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
Yeah, I do. I wrote actually a few songs when I was 7.
Okay.
Yeah, with my best friend at the time. Or she's still my best friend, actually. But she's back in
that's
Sweden.
a good thing to clarify, especially if you are still really good friends.
Yeah, exactly. We are. I just don't see her that often. She's back in Sweden. So yeah.
Completely under. So for the first song, did you end up doing anything with it, or did you not? Was it just
no? I mean, like the very first song, I was 7 years old, and it was about it was in Swedish. And it was about our friendship, like me and this other girl, because both of our names were Elin. And so it was kind of like, you know, a childish song. We didn't do anything about it. But then I wrote another song when I was 12, which I performed in school. And it was kind of like, I was very passionate about peace and United Nations and stuff. So we had this like United Nations Day, and in the concert hall in school, and we were collecting money for some war that was going on. So I wrote this song, and then I had the other kids in my class who knew drums and guitar and everything practice it with me, and then we performed it for
Nice. It's another thing where it seems like a lot of musicians, either they remember diligently the first song they ever wrote and sang, or they just completely forgot about it and erased it from their memory.
Erased it. Yeah, exactly. No, but like, I mean, like, it's kids' songs, but I'm like, I don't know, like I was proud of myself writing that song for the United Nations thing. So yeah.
Kind of staying on the difference, or what was the biggest difference you noticed of the independent scene in Sweden versus the US, now that you've kind of equally spent the same amount of time?
You get paid.
Fair.
Yeah. Like even as like independent, like starting up, I mean, like, of course you gotta get the gig.
Yeah.
You gotta be good, like, it's more like, okay, if you're good enough, you get a gig. Like the venues, the music venues don't want to book you if you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But if you're good enough, you get the gig and you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like here it's more about whether you can get enough people, draw enough people so that I mean, like, of course that's important in Sweden too, but like Gothenburg is like 500,000 people in the center to like 1 million people around. So like it's easier to get you get your name pretty easily. So then you can make sure that you can draw people there, and the venues know that you can draw people there. And whilst here, I feel like it's such a huge city and so much going on all the time. So like, that's that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Also, hip hop, rap is much bigger here than it is where I come from.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, I mean, no, that makes sense. I don't know why it makes sense, but it does. It does.
It's more like rock, folk, kind of the things that I'm like that. Yeah. Funny enough, is more in Sweden. Yeah.
It's interesting though that you in Sweden, you kept saying that in Sweden it was dependent on if you're good enough, and that's a very, I don't want to say judgmental term, because it's very in the eye of the beholder almost. So it's like, okay, this owner think you're good enough? Like
maybe I just meant like the booker, it has to be like some kind of standard in what you're doing, but then of course it's like up to the listener if like, do you dig this or do you not dig this? Of course.
So it's a lot more opinion based. So that's the word I was looking for, was opinion based. But
no, that was like that was like the wrong way to put it.
No, it's all good. That's where I just kind of wanted to clarify a little bit and expand upon it. But, so outside of music, what are some of the what are some of the things that you like to do? What do you do to kind of escape from everyday life?
I mean, I love to be in nature. I love to I don't surf a lot, but I like to surf. I like to walk by the beach. I love to hike, rock climbing, go camping. I love traveling, like all kinds of traveling, like seeing new places, meet new people. And I also like to go out dancing a lot.
Traveling is fun, especially for me. I love traveling in the car, because like yourself, it's that experience of meeting new people and meeting people that you wouldn't normally get to meet. And everybody's like, well, why don't you fly to these places? Like, Yeah, but you don't. I live in Central Texas, and my sister lives in Chicago, and my dad lives in South Florida. Just to kind of give a premise to the
Yeah.
story. So if I were to fly from where I'm at to my sister's, that's just I meet the people at the airport here, and I meet the people at the airport there. But
Yeah.
if I drive, I get to meet people in East Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Southern Illinois, and I just get to meet all these different people. And like whether it's just at the gas station or whatever. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of like my favorite part about traveling and doing it by car.
That is so, yeah. I like traveling by car too a lot. We did that a lot when I was a kid with my parents. We drove through Europe,
Yeah.
all the way to Italy. So we just like stopped at like, different places along the way, and we experienced a lot traveling that way. So yeah.
So it have you ever seen the movie European Vacation?
I have not. No.
I won't spoil it for you, but you may want to watch that movie. It's
Okay.
called National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Yeah.
It's a classic comedy. They win a road trip through Europe.
That's amazing. Yeah, we do that a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely going to see that. This sounds fun.
Yeah, and just tell me how accurate some of that stuff is. Like, I mean, you understand that this movie was made back in the 80s, so it's probably not that accurate, but
I mean, we still know how, we're still told how it was, I still know Swedish culture in the 80s.
Awesome. That's really cool. I don't know why I had to bring it up, but when you said you used to take trips through Europe, that's what popped into my head. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So, is there any place that you haven't been yet that you really want to get to? Like, since you've been in this, we'll keep it kind of in the States.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, I've been traveling quite a few places, but some of the places I really want to go is for music, of course, Nashville, and also New Orleans. I think that would be really cool. Kind of see that like old jazz culture, and it just seemed like a really cool place. I think I would like it. And then I really want to go. I haven't been to Northern California. I haven't been to the Redwoods.
Okay.
So, I'd love to see that.
That's one place I really want to go to. We've been meaning to go up to like the Pacific Northwest, so like Washington, Oregon, that area, and going through the Redwoods would be amazing. Just trees that have been there for that long.
Yeah,
you got to check it out.
No, it just seems like a really cool like culture, kind of like a mix between hippies and drug lords.
It's probably fairly accurate. I know a few people that live up there, and they could probably agree that that's probably fairly accurate. So
yeah.
And then for New Orleans, I've been through there, but I've never like stopped. I have a few friends that were born in the area, and they always say, don't do the touristy stuff. So like, don't go to Bourbon Street, because it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not like everything.
It's the same for everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like don't go to La Ramblas in Barcelona, for example.
I love going to Orlando. It's everything it's cracked up to be. Everybody, I love going to Orlando. It's my favorite place to go in vacation.
Okay. I haven't been there, so yeah. Maybe
well,
that should be the next.
Disney. Well, I mean, you live in LA, so you got Disneyland and all that stuff, but Disney World,
Yeah.
So agreed. Cool. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but given that the pandemic hopefully is loosening up, are you starting to book shows or anything, or what's kind of your schedule look like moving forward?
So we had I had like three shows with the band already, and a couple of shows with my solo stuff, and a bigger concert, or like bigger, but like with my solo
Yeah.
at the Mint coming up as well. So yeah, so it's like it's coming back. Like the
Nice.
music venues is opening up, and we're doing shows. I'm doing shows
Nice. How
pretty frequently.
often, like once things kind of get back into full gear, how often would you like to be playing shows, just like collectively as a musician yourself?
I do, but I'm still like kind of up and running. So I do shows. I try to do shows once a month.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, like I can do others too, but like I kind of like to really build up to the show, and because like I do so many. I also have my band, so like we also do one once a month, and I'm also writing and you know, different things. So yeah, so like one, two shows a month.
Nice. And
Yeah.
I mean, in LA, it's one of those things where it's like you could easily do a show a week if you really wanted to, because the city's
Yeah.
so big. But at a point, it's like, what's the point unless you're out traveling and playing in new places, you know? So
Yeah, I wanna make sure that like I have a good audience when I play, you know, and also like it's like driving too, you know, and in LA you go to other places, so far from where you live.
yeah,
So yeah, so just like makes sense for me to do like a couple of shows a month
gotcha.
for right now. I mean, and then of course when I'm touring, I haven't been touring since COVID. So
Yeah,
yeah, but soon I probably will do that like in spring or so.
nice.
Then of course there'll be more
Yeah.
shows.
I can't wait to kind of get out back out there. I'm not a musician. I don't pretend to be. I, just kind of do my thing here. But before COVID, we used to go out once every other month and do like what we'd call production runs and do live acoustic videos. So like we'd
Mhm.
reach out to bands and do like live acoustic videos and stuff like that. And we haven't done it since January of last year, right before COVID hit and kind of shut everything down. And I want to get back out on the road. I miss it so much.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of those things where it's like, there's a lot of bands that would be cool if we started doing it right now and we'd be 100% fine. But then you're also going to run into those other bands that aren't cool with it. So
Yeah, it's like it's a little. I mean, like it's always like a little bit of a hustle to put together a tour. So I guess like a lot of people like myself too is just like waiting so that there's not like cancellations last minute, and then
Yeah.
you already booked your itinerary.
Yep.
And you know, like you're losing out on show ceremony or whatever it is, you know.
Yep.
And yeah, so
Cool.
yeah.
So before I let you go,
Mhm.
first off, if people want to check out your music or any of your upcoming shows, where's the best place for them to do that?
So I have a web page, which is ELIN dot ELIN wolf.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's got
And
the
then
links.
also Instagram. I'm very like updated on my Instagram. So and that's ELIN.wolf.
Nice. That's the one thing I've started to notice is Instagram starting to take over my life a lot more. Like about 6 months ago, I didn't like Instagram. And then one day it was just like, oh, this is where I need to be. Why have I been ignoring this for the last 3 years? So,
Yeah, I'm not a social media person, but I kind of like had to
yeah.
just like I'm trying to be very present in at least one,
Yeah.
which is Instagram right now.
Nice.
So yeah, everything that happens, all the podcasts, all the shows, all the new material, you know, all the collaborations comes up
Cool.
there. Yeah.
Cool. And then one last question before we wrap this thing up. What is one thing that you miss about Sweden that you just can't get here in the States?
is it cheesy to say my family?
Oh, that works.
Yeah,
That works.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is there any food, like any food item that you just, it's not the
Yeah.
same?
And people are not going to like this, but we have like a lot better seafood where I come from.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Actually, that makes
very
a
fresh.
lot. That makes a lot of sense. I love seafood, so if I ever make
Yeah.
it to Sweden, I'm gonna have to try it. So
You gotta, yeah, and it's like, eating it on, in the harbor
Mm.
or just like freshly fished. It's like a little bit more salty, and they're like smaller than
Mhm.
here, so they're more packed with flavor.
Yeah.
I love it. So you got to do that.
Awesome. I will,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things. I lived near a lake, so we always got fresh fish out of the lake growing up. And then when my parents moved to Florida, we got like all the cool tropical fish. So yeah, seafood.
That's so good.
That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. So
Yeah, I agree.
awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I 100% appreciate you coming on here, and I can't wait to talk to you here in a little over a month. I don't remember the exact date, but I know it's right before I take my winter break. I'm really excited to talk about the band, and it'll be a nice, fresh podcast. So I'm really excited about that. Make sure anybody that's listening, make sure you stay tuned for more information about that show.
Yeah.
But until
thank you so much for having me.
absolutely.
It's really fun.
And then until next time, we will see you all later.